Shut up and sit down.
Hello everybody! I'm your host, Mr. Joe-verrated, and welcome to the first episode of a series that I like to call Trip Around the Block. This is a series where we take an upcoming film or TV show and try to connect it to another project that it resembles or has taken influence from, using some of my favourite actors and directors to get there. Now, bear in mind that this is not meant to be about the quickest way to link two projects together, but instead, this is by far the most interesting route, as we explore some of the greatest films of all time. And some right piles of wank too. We're also going to be delving into reviewing some of these movies along the way, just to let you guys know what I thought about a particular movie, and see if you might want to go see it yourself, if you haven't already, which you probably have. I'm sure I've done a really bad job at explaining that, so yeah, you're bloody right, cocked it up, mate. Oh, well, thanks for the vote of confidence, ominous Australian voice. And while I'm here, get your bloody hands out of your pants while you're recording. It's bloody gross, mate. Oh, come on, why would you say? Anyway, I'm sure you'll pick it up soon enough. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, The Accountant is a film that I've been really looking forward to ever since the trailer dropped back in May. Ben Affleck plays Chris in the movie, the main protagonist, who, from the footage so far, sorta seems like the result of putting Jason Bourne Matt Damon and Good Will Hunting Matt Damon on two colliding missiles over a dodgy attempt at photoshopping a sea horizon. So, that's the trip that we've planned out today. How do you get from The Accountant to Good Will Hunting and the Bourne Trilogy via some awesome actors and their performances? Now, one of my favourite actors is credited as being in this movie, and that's Jon Bernthal. I loved him in The Walking Dead. I thought he was probably one of the best antagonists the show has seen so far. That's hopefully until Negan kicks some ass in season 7. Yeah! I thought he was the best Punisher we've ever seen on screen before in Daredevil, and I can't wait for him to get his own show on Netflix. But the Jon Bernthal project that I'm choosing is Fury. This is a very underappreciated war movie in my opinion, showing the gritty and realistic truth of serving in the army at that time. The movie spends less time on the stunning visual effects you might see in other World War II epics, spending more time on the brotherly camaraderie that the tank unit has built, and more intimate human moments between the characters that help give the story depth. I thought all 5 of the main actors in this movie turned in really solid performances. Even Shia LaBeouf! LOL! I thought Brad Pitt was the real standout performance for me though, trying to maintain that strong persona in front of his crew, while battling all the horrible things he's had to do. Showed real conflict in his character, and I thought he pulled it off really well. I do think the writers were afraid to give the audience any happy moments in the fears that it would become unrealistic, and that did make the film seem a bit too depressing at times. Having said that, I thought it was still a really well made movie, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Moving on now with Brad Pitt. There were a number of different iconic movies I could have chosen from. I was very tempted to use the films Fight Club or Snatch, as they contain some of my favourite Brad Pitt performances. But in the end, I went for another World War II Brad Pitt performance, and that was Lieutenant Aldo Raine in Inglourious Basterds. Although this is a slightly campier World War II movie in places, this Tarantino epic still contains some awesome nail-biting scenes, most of which are whenever the Jew hunter, played by Christoph Waltz, is on screen. However, perhaps one of the most nail-biting scenes of all time stars another leading man, and that is Michael Fassbender as Lieutenant Archie Hickox in the tavern scene. From this moment here, where the lieutenant orders 3 glasses without using his thumb, as a real German would sign it, you can see the realization on the face of the SS Major Hellstrom that the man sat before him is in fact an imposter. Although people on their first viewing might not notice such a small detail as this, there is still an obvious shift in the intensity of the scene as it becomes eerily quiet, a detail that any viewer can spot, clearly indicating to the audience that the Englishman Hickox has been caught out. These seemingly unsubstantial details, that are only fully paid off on repeat viewings, demonstrate once again why Tarantino is such a celebrated filmmaker. The pure rewatchability of this movie, the fully developed characters, and fleshed out plotline give Inglourious Basterds a 9 out of 10.
7!
No, Len, I said 9! Don't you undermine me, you old so-and-so. Now, Michael Fassbender has had some outstanding roles in his career. He was fantastic in 2015's Slow West, and gave a bone-chilling performance as plantation owner Edwin Epps in 12 Years a Slave. But the Fassbender performance that we're moving forward with is one where you don't even see his face till the very end of the movie, and that's Frank. frank, is much smaller than the other films on this list. It's an indie movie that premiered at Sundance Film Festival in 2014 and only went on to gross £645,186 worldwide. Now that's not much for a film starring Magneto, General Hux, and Batman's girlfriend, Rachel Dawes.
Rachel! 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 Rachel!
This film has a serious amount of heart, but I do think it's fair to say that it is pretty weird. There are a fair few scenes when the band are at their cabin retreat in the woods, rehearsing for their album recording, that are fairly nuts, but in an endearing sort of way. This is the first comedic role I've seen Michael Fassbender in, and I think it's fair to say that he nails it, whatever it is. Domhnall Gleeson was amazing as ever. The opening of this movie, when his character's trying to find inspiration for a song, made me chuckle audibly in the cinema, like a bloody weirdo. I'm not quite sure which genre defines this movie best. Comedy/drama, I guess? I don't think it's quite as good a movie as Inglourious Basterds, but it did tick all the right boxes for me for the type of film that it was. So I guess I'll give it an 8.75 out of 10. You could never accuse Domhnall Gleeson of pulling a Tom Cruise, saying that he plays the same character over and over again, because all of his roles are so different. Obviously, again, you've got Hitler-esque General Hux, slightly more mild-mannered psychopath as Caleb Smith in Ex Machina, but the Domhnall Gleeson film that I'm choosing is one where he isn't a psychopath at all, and that's About Time. Now, some of you might disagree with me, as I did notice that this movie had a surprisingly average reception for how good I thought the movie was, but in my opinion, this is one of the most heartwarming movies I have ever seen. This was really my sort of film, and I'm not even really into romantic comedies. I mean apart from Love Actually, of course, and Notting Hill, and When Harry Met Sally, and Sleepless in Seattle. Ooh, Pretty Woman as well, and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Silver Linings Playbook, but that's it. I don't really like them. But this movie transcends romantic comedies and becomes something much more developed than that. The relationship he has with his father in the movie, played by Bill Nighy, is so genuine, and obviously the time travel aspect of the film adds another really cool dynamic. Because let's face it, who wouldn't want their family to have an ancient time travelling tradition? I'm not going to lie, I was hoping that it was something my dad was keeping from me. And I'm not ashamed to say that after the film was done, I did find a dark space, shut my eyes and tried to time travel myself. But I'm just thinking that my powers haven't fully activated yet, so still holding out on that one. What a fucking loser this guy is, eh? Yeah, well, that's just your opinion, so... Believe it or not, Margot Robbie is actually in this movie. This was her first big studio project, as previously she had only done smaller films, as well as TV shows like Neighbours. Anyway, that's who we're moving on with, Margot Robbie. If I'm honest, this one was purely about the connection to the other films to get us where we needed to go, as she didn't really play a pivotal part in the movie. More like that bitch in high school that leads you on for 3 years, tells you how cute you are all the time, and then never phones you after you leave. Although I do really like this film, I do have to be impartial and recognise that it does have a lot of flaws in the storytelling department, and therefore I can't give it as high a score as I would really like to. So About Time gets a 7.5 out of 10. So, Margot Robbie, please marry me? Sorry. Now, although the Suicide Squad wasn't amazing, and I'm sure even hardcore DC fans can agree with me on that, I thought Margot was very true to the character of Harley Quinn, as well as being comic book accurate. But of course, the Margot Robbie performance that I'm choosing was her breakout role as the Duchess Naomi in The Wolf of Wall Street. I think every bro in the world had an orgasm at once over this guy's life. Jordan Belfort, or Wolfie as he's referred to in the movie, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is the epitome of zero fucks given. DiCaprio really lets loose on his performance in this movie. Some of those motivational type speeches that he delivers to the company, particularly the one where he decides he is going to remain CEO, just blew me away. And his chemistry with Jonah Hill was hysterical. They played excellently off each other. And in that lewd sequence where Wolfie's just driven home from the country club, you guys know which scene. Kitchen. Telephone. Choking. I was honestly, genuinely crying for 10 minutes straight. John Bernthal, again, fantastic. Matthew McConaughey and Joanna Lumley nailed it in their cameos too. I'm a big Scorsese fan, particularly when he teams up with DiCaprio. I think all their work together is fantastic, and this is no exception. Solid dialogue, solid action, solid performances. A 9.5 out of 10 from me. Moving on with DiCaprio, because obviously he's the best. Not only was I considering choosing one of his many Oscar-nominated movie performances, but Django Unchained's big bad Calvin Candy was another obvious consideration of mine, as was his role as Teddy Daniels in Shutter Island. However, I went for a Leo performance that I believe hands down should have won him an Academy Award, and that's Billy Costigan from The Departed. This is the third Scorsese-DiCaprio collaboration that I've mentioned in this video, along with Wolf of Wall Street and Shutter Island. Yeah, you got a real hard on for those two, don't you, mate? Hey. Oh, please, would you just I watched The Departed for the first time quite recently, in fact, and it has become an instant classic in my eyes. This is a story about two kids from similar backgrounds and upbringings that both join the Boston Police Department while taking very different moral pathways through their lives and careers. Sure, it seems a simple enough premise, but the way this story is executed on screen was absolutely phenomenal. Jack Nicholson plays a mob boss who... Wait, didn't he play a mob boss in Batman 1989? Anyway, he gave a really awesome performance, and his character gave a nice balance to the movie as a whole, as he was the real focal point for everybody and their motivations in the movie. Another great directorial display from Scorsese also gets this movie a 9.5 out of 10. Wait. There's another great actor in this film, right? No, not him, but let's be honest, he was friggin' awesome in the movie as well. Oh yeah, Matt Damon! Hurrah! We've done it, everyone! Matt Damon fits in there, and thus concludes this episode of Trip Around the Block. That's how you get from the upcoming film The Accountant to the Bourne Trilogy and Good Will Hunting. Interestingly, if you'd like to help the channel out, then hit subscribe, if you feel like it. Let me know what you thought by leaving a comment, if you've got the time, and possibly leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and you care to. Or don't do any of that. It's your life, and frankly, I don't want to tell you what to do. Anyway, join me next time when we take another trip around the block. I've been your host, Mr. Joe-verrated. Have a good one, YouTube.